Abraham Lincoln was born into poverty on February 12, 1809, in a log cabin near Hodgenville, Kentucky. He was the second child of Thomas Lincoln and Nancy Hanks Lincoln, and had two siblings, Sarah and Thomas, who died in infancy. His family had deep colonial roots, including ancestors from England and Virginia. Due to land title problems, the family moved from Kentucky to Indiana in 1816, where Thomas worked as a farmer and carpenter. In 1818, Lincoln's mother Nancy died of milk sickness, and his sister Sarah helped run the household. Thomas remarried in 1819 to Sarah Bush Johnston, whom Lincoln grew very close to. In 1828, Lincoln's sister Sarah died in childbirth, a loss that deeply affected him. Lincoln was largely self-educated, with less than a year of formal schooling from itinerant teachers. Despite this, he became an avid reader and maintained a lifelong love of learning. As a teenager, he worked extensively on his father's farm and was hired out for labor. In the early 1830s, he traveled by flatboat to New Orleans, where witnessing slave markets left a lasting impression on him. In 1830, the family moved to Illinois. Lincoln grew increasingly distant from his father, partly due to his father's lack of interest in education. Lincoln's early romantic life included in Rutledge, whose death in 1835 deeply affected him and led to severe depression. He later courted Mary Owens, but the relationship ended. In 1839, Lincoln met Mary Todd. After a broken engagement, they married in 1842 and settled in Springfield. Their marriage was often turbulent, but they had 4 sons. Only the eldest, Robert, lived to adulthood. Eddie and Willie died young, and Tad died at 18. The loss of his children deeply affected Lincoln and contributed to lifelong depression. In 1831, Lincoln left his family and settled in New Salem, Illinois. He worked at a general store and gained local fame for his strength in storytelling. In 1832, he ran for the Illinois House, serving briefly as a militia captain in the Black Hawk War, but lost the election. Lincoln later owned a general store that failed, leaving him in debt. He then served as New Salem's postmaster and a county surveyor. While holding these jobs, he educated himself by reading law independently, eventually deciding to become a lawyer. In 1834, Lincoln won election to the Illinois House as a Whig. Supporting Henry Clay's ideas on economic modernization and gradual abolition, he served 4 terms, promoting internal improvements like the Illinois and Michigan Canal, expanding voting rights to all white men, supporting the state bank, and helping move the capital to Springfield. In 1838, Lincoln delivered the Lyceum Address, condemning mob violence after the murder of an anti-slavery editor. He was later embarrassed by a near duel with James Shields, which did not occur. Lincoln was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1846 as a Whig, serving 1 term. He opposed the Mexican-American War, introduced the spot resolutions challenging President Polk's justification for the war, and supported efforts to limit the spread of slavery, including the Wilmot Proviso. His anti-war stance hurt his popularity, earning him the nickname Spotty Lincoln. After backing Zachary Taylor in 1848, Lincoln declined a federal appointment and returned to practicing law in Illinois. Lincoln was admitted to the Illinois bar in 1836 and practiced law in Springfield, partnering with several attorneys, including William Herndon. He handled a wide range of cases, especially those involving transportation and railroads, and argued hundreds of cases before the Illinois Supreme Court. He also became the only U.S. president to hold a patent. Though it was never used commercially, Lincoln gained fame as a trial lawyer, notably securing acquittals in major murder cases, including one using a farmer's almanac to discredit an eyewitness. His legal career established his reputation for skill, logic, and fairness. Violence in Kansas kept opposition to the Kansas-Nebraska Act strong. In 1856, Lincoln joined the Republicans and helped found the Illinois Republican Party at the Bloomington Convention, where he spoke for limiting slavery and preserving the Union. Although considered for vice president, Lincoln supported the Republican ticket of John C. Fremont. Democrat James Buchanan won the presidency, but Republican William Henry Bissell won Illinois' governorship, making Lincoln a leading Republican in the state. In 1858, Lincoln won the Republican nomination to challenge Stephen Douglas for the U.S. Senate. He delivered his famous House-divided speech, warning that the nation could not endure permanently half slave and half free. Lincoln and Douglas debated 7 times, discussing slavery, popular sovereignty and the Dred Scott decision. Douglas won re-election, but Lincoln gained national recognition and emerged as a potential Republican presidential candidate. In February 1860, Lincoln's Cooper Union speech in New York argued against slavery and popular sovereignty, impressing the audience and boosting his presidential prospects. In 1860, Lincoln won the Republican nomination, earning the nickname the Rail Candidate for his frontier image, with Hannibal Hamlin as his running mate. The Democratic Party split between Northern candidate Douglas and Southern candidate Breckinridge, while John Bell ran for the Constitutional Union Party. Lincoln campaigned minimally, relying on Republican enthusiasm and the free labor narrative of his rise from poverty. On November 6, 1860, he was elected the first Republican president, winning the North and West while receiving no votes in most Southern slave states. After Lincoln's 1860 election, Southern states began seceding, forming the Confederate States of America under Jefferson Davis. Lincoln and Buchanan refused to recognize the Confederacy, declaring secession illegal. Lincoln rejected the Crittenden Compromise but supported the Corwin Amendment, which protected slavery where it already existed. Traveling secretly to Washington to avoid assassination attempts, he arrived under military guard. In his first inaugural address, March 4, 1861, Lincoln assured the South he had no intention to abolish slavery where it existed and appealed for unity, warning that legislative compromise was unlikely as 7 Confederate states boycotted the peace conference. On November 19, 1863, Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, honoring fallen soldiers and affirming that the nation was conceived in liberty and committed to equality. He called for a new birth of freedom and government of the people, by the people, for the people, following Union victories at New Orleans, Gettysburg, and Vicksburg. Lincoln also proclaimed a national Thanksgiving holiday in November 1863. In 1864, Lincoln ran for re-election under the National Union Party, with War Democrat Andrew Johnson as his running mate. Early setbacks in the war hurt his chances, but Union victories at Atlanta and in the Shenandoah Valley boosted support, and he was re-elected. Peace talks at Hampton Roads failed to recognize the Confederacy as equal. On March 4, 1865, Lincoln delivered his second inaugural address, calling for reconciliation and lasting peace. A month later, Lee surrendered at Appomattox, effectively ending the Civil War, followed by subsequent Confederate surrenders. Before the Civil War ended, Lincoln planned for Reconstruction, focusing on reunifying the nation rather than punishing the South. His Amnesty Proclamation 1863 pardoned most Confederates who pledged loyalty. While radical Republicans pushed for stricter measures, Lincoln appointed military governors in Tennessee and Arkansas and promoted Louisiana's readmission once 10% of voters pledged loyalty and slavery was abolished. He pocket vetoed the stricter Wade-Davis bill. Lincoln pushed for the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery, which passed after his re-election in 1865. He also signed the Freedmen's Bureau Bill, providing temporary support and land access for freed slaves, though he opposed widespread land redistribution. Scholars suggest Lincoln was moving towards stronger protections and limited suffrage for freedmen at the end of his life. John Wilkes Booth, a well-known actor and Confederate sympathizer, plotted to kill Lincoln after his April 11, 1865, speech advocating voting rights for some black men. On April 14, 1865, Booth shot Lincoln at Ford's Theater. Major Henry Rathbone tried to stop him but was stabbed. Lincoln was taken to Peterson House, remained in a coma, and died at 7:22 a.m. on April 15th. Johnson became president the same day. Booth was tracked down and killed 2 weeks later in Virginia. From April 19th to 20th, Lincoln lay in state in the White House and Capitol. His and his son Willie's caskets then traveled by funeral train to Springfield, Illinois, with stops drawing hundreds of thousands of mourners. While some celebrated his death, most expressed grief. Walt Whitman wrote 4 elegies, and Lincoln was buried at Oak Ridge Cemetery in Springfield in the Lincoln Tomb. Lincoln reshaped American republicanism by emphasizing the Declaration of Independence as principle of equality as the foundation of the nation. As a Whig, he supported business, tariffs, banks, and infrastructure, but admired Jackson's patriotism and belief in the common man. His respect for the Founding Fathers and the Constitution reinforced his conservatism, evident in his first inaugural address where he denounced secession as anarchy. We invite you to share your thoughts on Lincoln's legacy in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other videos. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe for more. Thank you.